Welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. I want to take time to thank Sean and the gang over at Firearms Radio Network for giving us a space to hang out. I also want to take time and thank Jake and Ryan and everybody over at Patriot Patch Company. That's patriotpatch.co, patch of the month, for being the bandwidth sponsor. So just greatly appreciate that. So, what's everybody been doing? Phil.
Always going to put me on the spot. I did not get done as much as I wanted to. I've been out of town for a week. Like I was talking to y'all about before we went live, I'm on my way to having my AR pistol finished. I've got some large components assembled and just waiting on one more box of stuff, and I'll probably have this thing screwed together tomorrow. But
Phil, how long is that barrel?
10.5 inches.
Thank you, sir. Please continue.
Yeah, it's a 10.5 inch AR pistol. I've got a folding stock adapter on it to make it as compact as humanly possible for storage. And I'm going to try to run a cat can on the end of it just to try to push the muzzle blast and the fireball forward so that I don't have to deal with as much concussion, behind the gun. But prior to this, I've actually been pretty condescending of AR pistols. I'm not a big fan of them, but when certain politicians talk about banning them, I suddenly decided I wanted one. So,
well, I have a little tidbit for you about short barrels. Okay, I kind of forgot about this, but I used to fire quite a bit of ball ammunition through my Thompson Center Contender, Super 14 barrel. And, well, I didn't realize at the time what I know now about the pressure of the ball ammunition. Anyway, needless to say, every time I would put off a reload, it would be bang. Every time I'd set off a round of ball ammunition, it would be a bloody damn boom because the pressure's higher. Mm-hmm. But anyway, what I'm saying is be ready for, for your world to light up.
I'm sure, but I guess from my perspective, I know that I'm gonna have a whole lot different experience shooting this versus my 18-inch rifle.
Oh yeah,
but I've heard reasonably good things about using, a cat can or a linear comp, various things to try to push the blast forward. So I'm going to give it a whirl.
I know what you mean. It's on the order of putting a soda can on the top of soda can on the barrel on that order.
Yeah. And if you think about it, it makes a certain amount of sense why it would lessen the concussion, because what you basically are screwing on the end of your barrel is an expansion chamber. Mm-hmm. You're giving a semi-contained but still open air area for those expanding gases to expand before it has free range to just blow out in all directions. Mm-hmm. And since the cat can is like 1.25 inches in interior diameter versus, 0.2 of an inch is the barrel, you got a reasonable amount of area for that gas to expand and still project forward. That's the theory.
What did Sir Isaac Newton say about objects in motion?
Tend to stay in motion.
And so if you start directing those gas molecules forward, they're going to tend to stay going forward even after they expand out of the cat can.
We'll see how the theory pans out. I've talked to people that said it works. We'll try it.
Do you have any ball ammo?
Every bit of 5.56 I have in this house is hand loaded.
I see.
And it's not a super hot load. It's like 25 grains CV 223 under a 55 grain. Mm-hmm. It does the job. It runs the guns beautifully. It's just not really hot.
It runs an 18-inch barrel.
Yep.
Not a 10.5.
We'll see. 25 grades going off the load data I have is about medium to medium hot. So it should be making enough gas to run at a 10.5 just fine. If it doesn't, then I will probably honestly try to mess with like the buffer weight or something on the pistol rather than go and try to, I don't want to have a situation where I have to make 2 different rounds for both these both of these ARs. I'd rather change the buffer weight in this gun to make it run the ammunition I'm running in my rifle.
Exactly.
But that's been all I've been doing is just amassing parts. There's currently 2 boxes of parts sitting on this bed over here next to me. And the only thing stopping me from putting this whole thing together is a bolt carrier group, a charging handle, and a gas block. So, Travis, you're next on the chopping block. What you doing?
So this week I melted down probably 50 pounds of scrap lead that I had. Melted them into ingots. After our last podcast talking about casting, it kind of got me in the mood to melt some lead. So
Nothing wrong with rendering.
Now, are you just melting down wheel weights or like some kind of specific alloy or whatever junk you could find?
I've got I had probably 40 pounds of just range scrap. And then I had, probably 10 pounds of just pure lead that I melted down. So I do, separate them out and label everything. But that's all I did. Jason, did you do anything?
No. I had grand plans of setting up the 650 for 357. And something, I had to do a car repair. So that shot my day of doing that. But some of my buddies are planning on doing a little sighting in this coming weekend. So hopefully we'll get out to go shoot. This is the first, I think, 4 days it hasn't rained here. I'm getting ready to name our town Mud because it has rained so much, and every time you walk out in the dirt, it's the mud sucking at your boots. It's really been rough here lately, but it's starting to dry up now a little bit. So hopefully we can get out and get some shooting done.
It doesn't rain in Southern California.
He's in Northern
Southern California.
I know that. I know almost exactly to the inch where he lives.
That's funny because Brandon lives in SoCal now, and he's been hiking every weekend and doing all this outdoor stuff. And it's like, crap, I wish I lived there. I'd like to go out and do something.
Yeah, Jason knew I was pulling his chain. But anyway, that ought to be pretty good loading 357 on a 650. You ought to take him and punch out 1,000 rounds in what, 2 hours?
Yeah, shouldn't take long once I get it set up. See if I remember how to pull that handle, though. I'm not sure I recall.
Oh yeah, you're getting as bad as me.
What you loading in the 357?
Say that again, Phil.
What are you loading in that 357?
What am I loading in it?
Mm-hmm.
Like my recipe?
Well, yeah.
Because I usually put 357 in my 357. That's what I was going to say.
You gave him the opening, Phil, you dumbass. You know he's a smart ass. You know he's going to take every shot he can. Go ahead, Jason.
Yes.
Can you even remember?
It's written down.
Never mind.
It involves unique and a 158 cast. That's about all I can tell you.
Is it a maximum load, Jason? A moderate load? 90%, 95%, 98%?
Knowing me, probably a good 95%.
That's right where I like them.
Never fell into unique.
It does everything. It does
Except
40 well.
My powder measure.
I think
You need a new powder measure instead of avoiding unique. Buy a new powder measure. Buy an RCBS Uniflow.
I don't avoid it. I have other powders that do very similar things. I've just never found a reason to go chasing unique. I mean, hell, I had like a pound of it. I gave it away to my father to load some stuff with, and I don't think he really liked that powder much either. Didn't meter super consistently in his
Mike
bill.
got some unique.
Phil, how many different pistol powders do you run?
Universal, Power Pistol, Accurate 7, Accurate 9.
4.
I've got a bunch more on the shelf. I just haven't played with a lot of them. But those are like the 4 that I pretty consistently go around.
Okay. I have Unique and H110. That's it.
And the H110 is for heavy loads, like in 44, 357. Heavy loads, where
Yep.
you're going to want to get a fireball.
Yeah.
Jason and I do think a lot alike.
That's why Universal was my go-to for so long. Because, I mean, I can load 9mm, 45 ACP, 38 special. I could load 40 with it if I had a use for that demon caliber. You can load 357 Magnum with it. It's just not going to be a full house load. It's nice. I mean, I think maybe that's why I never fell into Unique, is I fell into Universal because that's what I could get locally when I first started. And it kind of does a lot of the same things.
There's this easy cure for that, Phil. Buy it by the case. I'm talking 32 pounds at a time. That way it'll carry you through the dry spells.
Yeah, I'm only halfway through that first 8-pound jug of Universal.
Yeah.
Takes a long time to get through 8 pounds of powder, 4.5 grains at a time.
Speaking of dry spells,
We don't when you need to know about your love life. Leave that in.
I walked right into that one.
Yeah, you did.
It's so easy, even Phil got it. It's quite possible the political climate might create a dry spell. So the newbies that are coming along listening to this, you might be thinking about that. You might want to start stocking up when you got the extra pennies to do so.
Are you talking directly to me or to everybody? Because you're talking
Everyone.
To the listeners, not you, Phil. I know you know better.
I will say that I'm 36 years old. I haven't lived through a ton of ammo shortages, but I've lived through enough. If the day you stop buying ammo because it's cheap and plentiful is the day you didn't learn from your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's why I'm building ARs like the Russians are coming to get me tomorrow, because they're cheap and they're plentiful and the parts are good. You might as well just build and buy everything you want to do right now.
And it's funny because the Russians are coming. We just don't know when. But that's we'll save that shit for the tagline.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Anyway, you got anything else, Jason?
M40 told me to shut up.
Well, tell him what you think of his opinion.
You shut up.
Oh, such witty repartee.
Anyway, if y'all don't mind,
He's worried about the competition of me running up there to his part of town and buying up all the powder.
Yeah.
Well, if y'all don't mind, I'm going to share my screen because I've got something going. Okay, here we go. That is my new, much smaller reloading bench. It's finished. Yes, I don't have a press on it.
Then it's not finished.
It's finished.
I'm going to go with Mike on this one.
Now it's time to take and install the press. I'm thinking myself a wooden plate like mounted here, somewhere in this area here, and centered over this set of drawers. Because I'll have to pull the drawers out so that I can countersink a couple 4 hex head cap screws. And then I'll bind them in with epoxy.
Based on your normal pace, do you think you'll get that finished before the next presidential election?
You're not the first person to make a wise comment about it, Phil. Anyway, so the guys, my bench is done. So here we go. So I'm going to stop sharing and let Mike have the screen back.
I'm happy for you, Jim. Seriously.
I know you are. Thank you, Phil. Even if you are a shithead.
Oh, I'm an absolute shithead. But, I mean, it would drive me nuts to not be able to reload as long as you haven't been able to. So I mean,
You think I'm not? Yeah, that's why I'm stark raving bonkers sometimes.
you were that way before
Sometimes.
Yeah, you guys are all taking a bait.
then. You were that way before. I mean, I'll ask your wife, and she will definitely agree with us on that.
Mm-hmm. She's right behind me, but she can't hear me. Can't hear you.
I see her in the mirror.
I don't doubt it.
Oh.
Anyway, that's what I finally got accomplished this week. The bench is done. Now I have to install. I figure out how to mount my press. Mike and I had discussed inline fabrication, but you know, the 2x12 I got is free. I'm thinking about whittling it down to maybe a 10x10 plate or even an 8x8 plate. And then, because that's plenty big enough to put a press on, because the real estate on my bench is going to be precious. You know, and I thought about making a setup on the other end as well for the where I was pointing at on the right side with my mouse. I was thinking about setting the Dillon up there. I just remembered something. Good thing I did make my shelves any wider. I might not have enough space for the case feeder. I still might not. Don't know. But anyway, so think about putting on the other side, putting the same affair, an 8x8 or 10x10 wooden plate for the Forster. But if I put a wooden plate, I can actually drop it down, either press down over the plate and go from there. But anyway, that's problems I'll have to work out. Mike's got a new sticker on his hat, or new Velcro patch on his hat.
No, I was there last week.
Last week, okay. I didn't see mine till yesterday.
For those of you who didn't see it,
beware, short barrel, shorter temper.
so did Travis say what he's been up to before?
Yes.
All right. Didn't really have much time for much, so didn't really get much done. Did a little more reorganizing in the garage, so made a little more floor space. But that's about it so far. Debating on whether I'm going to redo my bench or not. I'd like to have a little more room for reloading, so I got to figure out if I'm going to do that, what I got to do, where I'm going to put the podcast computer and all that still. But that's just kind of thinking about for now. So, Jim, inline fabrication makes exchangeable plate system, kind of like what I've got here on the bench for the Lee, only it's a little more universal. And Lyman's got a new one too.
Well, the thing is, I would need something rather short. I just realized I might not have enough room for the case feeder. So it's like that would really slow down the 550.
Yeah, no, they're flat. So.
Oh, I see. I didn't realize that. I'll take a look at it. Yeah, the only drawback I see to using a 2x12 block or something made from a 2x is the fact that it's 1.5 inches thick, whereas a piece of 3/4 inch or 1 inch, 1x is 3/4 of an inch, half thickness. It's also half the strength.
So, Jim, why make it out of wood instead of metal? Do you not have access to those tools anymore?
I do, but I don't. I'm working, full-time, part-time, as it were, but I just don't have access to the kind of stuff I used to have.
Okay.
I mean, I'd have to go out and buy a piece of metal this time. He's like, cheapskate Jim, it'd be nice to have a piece of 1/2 inch cold roll or even 1/2 inch hot roll. But speaking of hot roll, I made Mike a interchangeable plate. I didn't realize at the time. I thought it was a piece of 1/2 inch hot roll. Here it's a piece of what they call 1/2 inch tough coat, TOUGHKOTE, tough coat. And Mike got it. He tried to put a hole in it, and I think he's worn out 7 drill bits trying to pierce through the tough coating. I have carbide end mills and stuff like that I've been after that guy for what, 2 years now, Mike?
Something like that.
Maybe 3.
I'll get around to it eventually.
Yeah, well, either that or buy something from Inline Fabrication like you're suggesting I do.
So I'm going to bring that up quick and show everybody. I'll share with screen here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that site.
So here's the thing. Okay, so here's their taller ones.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, they've got a chop saw and then a vise and then an actual press. This is the top plates here. Let's see if it'll play. I guess not. Oh, here we go. So this kind of gives you an idea.
Hey, that's a thing of beauty already.
Yeah, they do really good on their videos. So we've had Dan on before, and we should really have him on again.
This video is to introduce you to the new Inline Fabrication Quick Change Top Plate System. The system is retrofittable to any existing Ultra Mount that's already out there, and also our Ultra Mount Junior, which is 6 inches tall as opposed to 9.5 of the standard Ultra Mount. As you can see, we have our trusty rock chucker in place here. We've finished our single stage operations of the day and want to load progressive on our Dillon 550. Unscrew the clear brass thumb nuts. Pull the unit off. Grab your Dillon. Set it in place. Reinstall the 2 brass thumb nuts. Install your output tray. You're off and running. Roll that for a while. The night is young. You decide, I want to work on my AR-15. Take off the brass thumb nuts. Pull the unit off. What I have here is a 20-inch vise on a quick change plate. Drop it into place. It has a mag block installed for the AR.
So that kind of gives you a interesting idea on how well that system works. So they've got a flush mount quick change base plate. So this is what I'd suggest for you, Jim.
I see. I will go over there and check that out.
Lyman also has that brand new system they just launched. We'll go look at that. As well. That one I was really happy with looking at because of the fact I wonder where they got that thing at. I think they showed it on the main page. Maybe not. See if it's in here.
There it is.
Okay. This might be a little tall for you, though. Excuse me. That's the only drawback. Is it is a tall one. They were talking about making a shorter one, but that might be the only drawback to that for you.
Yeah. I could see if it's anything close to even the 6-inch on the inline junior, even that's going to be too tall.
Yeah. So
No, the thing is, I reload when I'm sitting down.
mhm.
A lot of people reload standing. I spend hours at my bench. I just can't. My feet and legs won't take me standing all that time.
Mhm.
Hey,
I
I
do
like
like
that.
I do
I
like
do
that
like
flush mount plate though that inline fabrication had. That's making me think, because that's what always took me out of those strong mounts for years was the fact that I built my bench the right height from day one, and I didn't want my press any higher up off the bench than it already was.
Well, it looks like it's going to be at least 3/4 of an inch taller, Phil, because of whatever that flush mount's got bedded into.
But 3/4 of an inch beats 9.5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Now I just need a second press to justify unbolting my rock chucker from the bench.
So the other one you can consider, Jim, is the Hornday one. That one actually, as you can see, is quite a bit shorter.
I see it already.
Now, the only thing I don't know is, and it looks like everything's pre-drilled, lined up for Hornady stuff, but I would suspect that you could
Quite possibly.
reallocate. That's going to be something that I'm going to be testing later this summer. Is this one against probably the inline, and then the Lee, which I already have, and then the Lyman if it gets back in stock. So. But yeah, I mean, so there's lots of different options out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of wanted to show those since we were talking about them. And Jason, the reason he's using wood is he's trying to get back in touch with his youth before the Bronze Age.
Understood.
So, there's the reason for that. All right. So,
You all know that the reason why I'm using wood is because I have a few woodworking tools, and I can easily get lumber.
spoil our fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why not?
So, hey, Jim.
Oh, yeah, it's time for me to wake up. I've been sleeping all this time.
Time for the cartridge corner.
I didn't hear it very plainly. Could you run it again, Michael?
Yeah.
A little closer to your microphone.
Yep, I can do that.
Well, that's pretty good. That's as good as it's going to get tonight, folks, because it's time for the cartridge corner. Tonight, I chose a kind of a favorite cartridge of mine. Hope you all don't mind. Even though I don't own anything about it, I don't have dies, I don't have cases, I don't have a 378 Weatherby. But the cartridge I chose was a 30 caliber 378 Weatherby Magnum, which is a 378 Weatherby cartridge neck down to fit 30 caliber. Okay, and this is from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. Interesting tidbit. The 30 378 was originally designed by Roy Weatherby as an anti-personnel / anti-materiel military cartridge for a government contract. The cartridge was created by necking down the 378 Weatherby Magnum to accept a .308 diameter bullet, 3.308 inch diameter bullet. The United States Army's Redstone Arsenal requested a rifle cartridge that could develop 6,000 feet per second for the effects of light bullets against armor. The 30 caliber 378, I'm just thinking, you have to excuse me, I'm in shock. That figure 6,000 feet per second is unattainable by us normal human beings. But anyway, the 378 Weatherby Magnum was able to attain over 5,000 feet per second, 1,500 plus meters per second, using a slower burning and denser propellant. Oh my God. The 30 caliber 378 Weatherby Magnum surpassed the U.S. Army's requirement of 6,000 feet per second. I did say it's unattainable by us mere mortals. However, the shooting public had to wait for 1996 for Weatherby to release the cartridge. In the meantime, the 378 had gone on to set world records in 1,000 yards bench press competition. Earl Chronister, shooting a 30 caliber 378, shot the first ever 10 shot 10x with the first 9 shots to 3.25 inches, and the 10th flyer for an overall group of 4.375 inches at 1,000 yards, people. That's a record, and that was back in whenever we did it. The record stood for over 30 years. Several variations of the 378 Weatherby Magnum were created by custom ammo makers known as Wildcatters. Hammond Rifles and HS Precision were among the several custom gun manufacturers who chambered and built rifles long before Weatherby got around to releasing the rifle to the public. In 1991, Shooting Times editor Lane Simpson met with Ed Weatherby, the son of Weatherby Inc. founder Roy Weatherby, urged him to release the 378 Weatherby to the public as a standard chambering and a Mark V action. In 1995, Lane Simpson built a rifle chambered for the 378 Weatherby and developed loading data and passed the data on to Norma Precision to provide a basis for their factory-loaded ammunition. I know I don't read well, guys. I'm going to stop right there. I butchered it a couple times. But anyway, there's a lot more to go in this article. Michael put everything in the show notes for us over on Firearms Radio Network. But anyway, there's a lot more data on this, and boy, that's an interesting 6,000 feet per second. They were probably using a 90 grain bullet too, maybe even lighter. Back in those days, you had to custom suede your own bullets for something that light. Anything under 90 grains. I don't think I've ever heard of a under 90 grain bullet. You know, I've heard of 220 grain 30 caliber bullets, but not 90, nothing under 90.
Yep, they used to have a 75 grain.
Well, that would be for the M1 carbine.
No, in 308. 308 Winchester used to come in 75 grain. 75, 80, 90, 95, 100, 110.
For reloading only. I've never heard of factory ammo with that.
Remington used to have a 90 or 95 factory in the core lock. The only reason I know that is because my dad still has some of it. Because he used to use it for woodchucks.
Yep, very interesting. Oh, that ought to turn the woodchuck into red mist.
Pretty much. Yeah, he'd cheat. He'd lay on top of the silo and wait for wandering out back when that was still legal to do.
Can you imagine what would happen if you saboed that thing with a 55 grain 5.56 round?
Yeah, it's called sorry, they never did it with 308, but are you talking about saboing the 3378?
I'm talking about saboing the 3378 with 55 grain bullet.
I'm thinking 7,000 feet per second.
That would get his speed record that he wanted. I don't think he wants to buy a 3378 though to do it. Matt from LFD Research, aka Geeks Gadgets Guns, they were playing around with some 30 cal sabos, trying to get 5,000 feet per second. So
He attained that, didn't he? You're talking about Matt Shinzig?
yeah, I don't know how fast they got going. So.
I thought he was really close.
Yeah. So.
Sorry, my daughter popped in.
There's nothing to apologize. I mean, make her a host.
There we go.
I oughta. She's reloaded before. I don't let her play with powder and primers. I've let her do some brass prep.
Mm-hmm.
Figures
you'd let the child do the scout work.
Well, I wanted to let her do the stuff that if she goofed it up, we weren't messing with live components. I mean, I think she was 3 the first time she wandered in the garage and wanted to help Daddy make bullets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was proud. Got a picture of her someplace in her skirt and this powder blue shirt. 3 years old, standing on top of my oh Jesus, what's it called?
Stool?
Bar. But yeah, standing on top of my stool, resizing 45 ACP brass. Anyway, sorry, sidebar. Go ahead.
Well,
what's the point of that?
You know, Phil, you always say that you are ready for backup. You plan for backup, but you also plan to be without backup. Support, that's the word you used earlier, support. Well, this time it's backup. Our show notes are kind of weak.
No, I've got a question. So,
okay,
but I wanted to cover about so I'm looking up some of the factory ammo for the 3378. Holy crap, do they download these things?
Yeah, I was looking at Hornady load data and I was kind of surprised.
So we're talking 200 grain at a whole 3160.
That's almost obscene.
No.
No, what I mean is the way it's been choked back. You ought to be able to push that clear up to 3,500
without even thinking about it.
Exactly.
I've got Hornady load data saying that max velocities for a 178 is about 32 to 3,300.
That is just pansy-ish.
The Mark V action is one of the strongest actions ever made.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm hearing is Jim just picked out his next rifle project.
No, if I buy into anything, it's going to be commercially made. It's probably going to be the 300 rum or 7 rum. I'm not sure which. Oh, that's Remington Ultra Mag for you neophytes. Ultra Magnum.
Why don't you get the Super Ultra Magnum?
There is one?
I thought so.
I don't think there's an S rum. I know there's super short Magnum cartridges, but I want something with a lot of capacity. Of course, too, you're putting a 1/10 of a pound of powder down a barrel every time you fire one.
Well, if you want something with a lot of capacity, why don't you go for a 338, 378 Weather Me mag?
I could just,
go big or go home.
Could just neck down a 338 Lapua to 7mm.
Yeah. Neck down 50 BMG to 22 cal.
It's been done.
I know.
That's a joke.
But I would be that one person that'd be like, I'd like a term with that.
You bet. After seeing it perform without blowing itself up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to strap to the bench, pull the trigger with a rope from about 500 yards. Wait for the shrapnel to quit flying. Of course, too, that thing would probably strip its rifling out. You know that I was just watching on YouTube the other day about that Navy railgun that's shooting at what I don't know, some ungodly velocity, something like 45 times the speed of sound,
Oh yeah.
Mach 4 or 5 or something like that. Anyway, it can hit targets at 100 miles.
Hmm.
But the problem is the velocity is so fast, and the materials they're using in the railgun, you can actually see in the footage bits and pieces of the rifling being stripped out as the projectile is being launched.
Yep.
So they're thinking about cutting it in half and reducing the effective range to 50 miles at half the velocity, something like 25 Mach 25.
I wonder if it would help to do something like a paper patch bullet or a sabot on a large scale.
They already
Yeah.
have it in a sabot.
And the sabot is stripping the rifling out of the gun.
Yes,
Impressive.
it's a metallic sabot. I believe it's aluminum or some rather soft alloy. And but anyway, the projectile they're actually launching is like a needle-like dart.
I guess the only real way to do that and beat that would be you'd have to have a magnetic field suspend the projectile in the barrel so it never actually made contact, but then you would need to pre-spin it before you shot it.
Well,
They're
Which I
already
guess
working on that.
there is a boatload of magnetism going on inside that railgun. That's how it works.
Yeah, but you'd have to find a way to balance the field that way. You know what I'm saying? That way you could hold that needle precisely in the center of the board, because if it got a little bit out of whack, it just want to rattle down the board.
You know who you could talk to about that, Phil? DARPA, DARPA.
They don't want to talk to me.
They might be interested in your idea.
Yeah. Problem is,
They're the ones that developed a bullet that can alter itself in flight, alter its path in flight, because it picks up radio signals from the shooter. I kid you not. It's been videoed, the wake of the bullet curving to follow the target.
Problem is always making it work out in the field, making it soldier proof.
There is
or Navy proof, which you're familiar with.
soldier proof works too, Phil. I spent my time sleeping with my rubber lady and on top of a stream and standing in the rain eating watery scrambled eggs. I spent my time in the field. Now when I go to the field, I take my nice new camper.
So spoiled.
Oh, that's me, guilty as charged. Hands up. Anyway,
All right,
Mike, you were
here's
saying.
a question. So, good morning. Here's the issue. I've been shooting 308 for years. Just recently, a month ago, started reloading. My first time with the whole process. Been a very fun experience. I went out to 700 yards for the first time with one of my newest rifles, Mossberg MVP LC and 308, 18.5-inch barrel with a 1 in 10 twist. I'm using 165 grain AMAX and sometimes 160 grain ELD bullet. I ran into a problem. Here goes the story. I shoot lights out from under 550 yards. Once I stretch past that, I'm lucky if I get 2 out of 10. People are trying to sell me on the idea that my barrel is too short, my bullet's too heavy, and my feet per second is too slow. I'm currently chronographed at an average of 2,300 feet per second. Some of the things they are saying, and I can't verify if true or false, the barrel's not long enough, and all the powder's not burning. Varget powder, 39.5 grains. The bullet's too heavy, doesn't stabilize well past 550 yards. I have a 3-inch group at 550. On paper. We are not allowed to put paper targets past that because the terrain is hazardous to walk on. The barrel is not long enough to stabilize that round. Doesn't make sense because I have 305 grouping at 100 yards. The wind affects the 308 more than any other round. You will never be as accurate as you want to be with that caliber. Push your velocity up to 2,700 and see if that helps. 2,700 feet per second would require me to run the max load for that bullet. In conclusion, I have ran load tests, scope calibration tests, and even had my weapon cleaned and inspected by a gunsmith who gave me a COL that would allow me to touch the lands. After 3 months of failing to be consistent at 700 yards, I've decided to reach out to you. Are they giving me good or bad information? I know it's an awful lot of stuff, but I had nowhere else to get professional, accurate information specific to my needs. Okay.
He called us professional. Okay, well, thanks.
So,
Okay, Mike, read those specs again, please. Just the specs.
all right. So he's shooting 165 grain AMAX out of a 1 in 10 twist barrel, which is 18.5 inches long. Mossberg MVP.
Okay.
He's averaging 2,300 feet per second. They say the barrel's not long enough, so the powder's not burning completely. The bullet's too heavy and doesn't stabilize past 550 yards.
That's bull.
I agree.
Right? Considering when they're shooting a mile, they're using a 208 grain.
Well, no, I mean, having once shot, and I don't shoot AMAX anymore, but having once shot, I think they're actually 168 grain AMAX, or I thought they were. I might be mistaken. But they stabilize just fine. I have a 1 in 10 twist barrel because that's what I have.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's right on the cusp of a little bit too slow of a twist as far as I'm concerned.
Really?
I'd say 1 in 9, 1 in 8. Then he could stabilize the even heavier bullets.
1 in 10 ought to be more than plenty for 168, though.
Yep, I'm not arguing that. I said he was on the cusp, right on the cusp. If he wants to go with the 180, the 175s, or even the 200 grain, the 195, or something like that, I think his barrel's a little bit too slow. And I hate to say this, I hate to agree with John Q. Public, but he does need a little bit more velocity, and that means a longer barrel.
I don't know if it weighs on the conversation, but I think it's Berger actually has a calculator built into their website that you can plug in, like your muzzle velocity, twist rate, but and all of these different variables. I've run all this data through there, and a 1 in 10 twist barrel ought to be perfectly capable of stabilizing easily a 178, maybe even a little higher.
Okay, well, Phil's got experience with something I'm not familiar with.
Now, I can't say I've tested the theory because I haven't, but I trust Berger's and I trust Berger's math.
Yeah, I trust Berger's math before I trust my Jim Fleming's opinion.
Yeah, I mean, so I forgive me, guys. I just want to throw the whole twist rate out of the argument because the twist rate is not the issue here to me. If he's stabilizing bullets just fine and he's grouping that small at a shorter range, I don't think twist rate's the issue.
Jason was going to say something.
Well, your twist rate, it kind of depends on the speed you're launching your bullet at. Because I've launched some really big bullets at a very slow twist rate, but I was launching them a lot faster than what was normal, and I stabilized mine fine. I kind of suspect he might be right on the cusp of stability.
You think the speed is too low, in other words?
Yeah, I'd rather he sped him up a little bit.
I will say
that he's fine for that bullet weight. I think he's okay. He just needs to speed it up, is my guess.
Yeah.
Jason, what bullets do you load in 308? Hornady or Sierra or something else?
Sierra TMK is my favorite.
Okay. I actually one of the reasons I got away from the AMAX a while back and I got into the Sierra Match Kings was it had become two things became my experience with the AMAX, which one I don't think is pertinent to this, but I'll put it out there, and the other one is possibly pertinent to this. It had become my experience that for whatever reason, the AMAX seemed to be much pickier about powder charge. Like if I was a couple tenths of a grain higher or lower, or even if I shot those rounds like in a drastically different temperature than what I made that load at, the groups immediately opened up. So it seemed like the AMAX were very picky about powder charge, and the Match Kings seemed more forgiving for whatever reason in my rifle. But the other thing is, I noticed that I can get a pretty fair amount more powder into the 308 with the Sierra Match King, 168 grain Sierra Match King compared to 168 grain AMAX before I run into pressure signs, like 2 whole grains more powder. I don't know why that is. I never really, took the time to go backwards to the AMAX and investigate it. But I'm looking at 2,300 feet per second and these 168 grain AMAX that I used to shoot. And I can honestly say, I ran into pressure signs with that bullet in that cartridge sooner than I thought I would have. So I don't know. I don't know if it's something specific to the AMAX or if it's just like, 2 sample sizes out of 10,000, but he might not be able to push it to 2,600 feet per second without running into pressure signs. Not with that bullet.
The first difference that comes to mind is, of course, the brand, Phil. But really, what I'm saying is, I would think it might be at least a place to start would be the ductility of the jacket metal itself.
Oh, and I'm not trying to draw a comparison that like 2 168 grain 30 cal bullets are gonna or should be the same. I guess what I'm saying is that specific to that 168 grain AMAX, he might consider coming away from that bullet and trying another 30 cal bullet to see if he can get more velocity with a different bullet. Because that was my experience, at least. I mean, I don't have a chronograph. I just ladder load it and pick the load that shoots the most accurately. But I got a sizable amount more powder into the case before I hit pressure signs with Match Kings than I did with AMAX. I'm not enough of a bullet nerd to explain why, but I mean, I observed it.
Mike, what was his bullet speed?
2,300.
300.
That sounds a tad slow.
How does AMAX do when they go subsonic? Do they destabilize bad, or are they okay?
That I'm not sure of.
I've never shot long enough to know, but you might be onto something. They could be hitting that transonic, subsonic region and just kind of coming apart. You know what? I got a real basic ballistic calculator on here. I might be able, keep talking, guys, but I might be able to figure out at what distance that load goes subsonic, maybe.
I'm on it, Phil. I already got it open.
Never mind. You'll beat me to it then.
At sea level, 900 yards. So,
Well, Jason might be onto a point there because the guy's running at 2,300 feet per second at the muzzle or thereabouts. So, he's already started off slow. So, he might be hitting 900 yards, as it were, sooner.
yeah, you might be destabilizing the bullet going subsonic. That's a possibility. I would speed it up and, like Phil said, maybe change the brand of the bullet. See what you can do.
Just be careful, whatever you do, that you keep an eye on pressure signs.
Yeah.
I do remember about the 168, the Sierras, they're really well known for destabilizing when they go subsonic. So you might not want to go with the 168 Sierra.
What about the 178s? Any better or?
As far as I know, Phil, yeah, they don't have that issue. I have yet to test that out, but I will be testing that out this year.
Yeah, see, I haven't shot at long enough range to really put a lot of that theory to test. But I mean, I can only give my own experience shooting 168 AMAX and 168 Match Kings, and having worked up loads with both of them. I mean, to me, the Match King, I can't speak for what it does when it gets to the transonic region, but I can say that while they're supersonic, the Match Kings seemed much more forgiving. But that could have also been just my rifle not liking them much.
Yeah. So in doing a little digging, there's actually a few companies that make 308 subsonic ammo, and they're using the 168 grain AMAX. I don't find 155 grain AMAX, so I think he's meant 168 grain AMAX.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, there's a couple of companies that are making subsonic 308 ammo with the 168 grain. So I guess that kind of shoots the subsonic performance, but we don't have any data on what happens in that in between.
Mm-hmm.
Because it may be stable at subsonic speed, it may be stable at supersonic speed, but when it gets into that dirty mess in between, it could get whacked up, and that may be the problem.
I think Jason might be onto at least an extra data point to help sort this out, though, is try to push the bullet a little bit faster. And if that gives you a little more range before the group starts opening up, then to me that would lend credibility to the idea that when the bullet decelerates too much, that the group, that it's a velocity problem.
Yeah.
If you speed it up faster and it still won't shoot over 550 cleanly, then we're back to looking for another cause.
Yeah, I went to ballistics by the inch, but they don't do 308. They only did 5.56 and rifle. So
yeah.
But I mean, as far as Hornaday's load data, the 165s and 168s are all the same anyway, so it really doesn't matter. Let's see here. Where's the powder? Varget. Yeah, see, he's still got room to push that. What did they use for the test?
Well, while Mike's looking, I want to bring up a little sidebar. And that sidebar is that nobody seems to have noticed that what the show number is.
Yeah.
I noticed. I just wasn't calling it out.
Well, I was kind of hoping that you would have done that as the cartridge corner, but...
Oh, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
I gotta say, Bacon is in the chat. He noticed what it was.
Yep.
Well, we'll fix that. We'll remedy that next week. I just announced what the cartridge is going to be for next week, didn't I? Oh, geez.
Mike,
it's not going to be 243 Winchester.
The test gun that Hornady used for their data was a Winchester Model 70 22-inch barrel, 1 in 12 twist.
Yep. So for their Varget, he said he's using 39.5. So he's only losing 100 feet per second. If he's doing 2,300 average, Hornaday saying that out of a 22-inch barrel, they're only getting another 100 foot per second for that extra 4 inches. So, yeah,
Hornady's also given him 4 more grains of Varget to play with in that gray weight bullet.
Actually, yeah, he's got quite a bit more room to play with. So, yeah, definitely hop that puppy up and see where you go. But yeah, 1 in 10 should be perfectly fine for that load. Really shouldn't be a handicap. And the barrel length shouldn't be that much of a handicap either, according to the data I'm seeing. So, to give you an idea, let's see here. So to give you an idea, they've got a Winchester service rifle load, which is for the M1A, which is a 22-inch with a 1 in 10 twist, and the same load with the same bullet with 39.9 grains is 2,400 feet per second. So, and granted, that's a semi-auto, so theoretically you're losing a little bit with moving. So, but yeah, a couple of guys in the chat were also saying change powders. So that might help. So, it's one of those things to play around with and see.
Does our listener happen to mention exactly what platform he's using?
Yeah. MVP.
Oh, that's right. Mossberg MVP. Sorry.
Which is a bolt. So.
Well, he's getting some pretty nice groups out at 500, though. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'll take that.
I think that transonic zone between subsonic and supersonic is exactly what he's experiencing.
But we were saying, somebody, I don't know if it was Jason or Phil, said that it doesn't go subsonic till almost 900.
Again, because of his lower velocity, I think he's hitting that transonic zone a little bit earlier, is what I was trying to say a while ago.
And that depends on barometric pressure and humidity and all that too, Mike. That's just a rough guesstimate.
Yeah. So
I still vote amp it up and then change the powder.
Yeah.
I mean, we had this same conversation a couple episodes ago about 308 Winchester. There's a lot of powders out there that work really well in this cartridge. 4895, 4064,
Yep.
BLC2, CFE 223. I'm not saying Varget's bad. I'm just saying, I mean,
there's a lot of better powders.
I don't even know if better is the right word. I guess my way of looking at it is that I see nothing in the rifle that immediately makes me say that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
The barrel length could be longer, but it's not too short. The twist rate doesn't seem like a problem. The rifle is not known for being a dog. He shoots it like a maniac at 100 yards. So I don't think the loose nut behind the butt pad's the problem.
Right.
I think put another 2, maybe 3 grains of Varget into the case, work your way up, push it a little harder, and see what happens. And if that doesn't give you the results you want, I'd take the Varget out and go with another powder.
Exactly.
Yeah. Paul Nelson in the chat just said he just ran the ballistics and he's down to 750 feet per second. So yeah, that would be transonic.
So Paul, give me your info that you're running so I understand how you got those numbers, please.
Yeah, because if he's at 750 at 550 feet or 550 yards,
yeah, 700 yards. 700 yards.
Oh. Okay, that was right. He said he could shoot clean to 550 at 700. It was coming apart.
Yeah,
he's hitting that transonic wall.
So pushing it harder ought to push that wall back theoretically.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But I will also say, I mean, I personally, if he can't find results he wants with AMAX, I jump up to the 178s and I try the Sierra Match Kings, because at least in my experience, my gun, it shot the AMAX fairly well, but it was definitely a pickier bullet. But the Match Kings they work. Not saying they're better than Hornady, just one person's experience.
Well, there's also the IMR powder, like IMR 4320, which is a little faster than 4350. It's also it's also a bit slower than 4064 or 4895. You know, I would say using something like H4831 or IMR 4831 might be a tad slow for the caliber, but you take and add 6 inches of barrel onto that. Well, now we're talking a whole different story, because you got enough barrel to burn all that powder. But anyway, to get back to his problem, I'd suggest what you guys have. You guys have talked me into it.
We all agreed.
Yep. Wow. Pretty much persuaded ourselves, didn't we?
Except for Travis. Travis hasn't jumped in. And I think he's falling asleep on his hand there.
Is it numb, Travis?
Sorry, I've got a little baby who's sick, so yeah, I'm kind of tired.
Oh wow, I remember those days.
Now your little baby, has a job and moved out.
Yes,
I wouldn't know what that's like. My little baby comes and pokes me in the shoulder at 2:00 in the morning when she has a bad dream. Paul Nelson ran the bullet starting at 2,300 feet per second with an AMAX in my barrel, which is 26 inches. So I think Paul Nelson's quoting personal experience with a 26-inch barrel. And he said at 700 yards, he was down to 750 feet per second.
That's with his barrel, 26-inch. God, he's 8 inches longer than our listeners that Mike read his question, and he's down to 750. Holy cheese.
So I'm using Strelock. No wind. 328 feet with 29 inches of mercury, 59 degrees temperature, and did the 2300 with the AMAX. And so when I calculate it, it's saying that there's theoretically still at 1286 at 700. And that's with a starting speed of 2277. Corrected to temperature and
what is the speed of sound?
1120.
He's right there at the beginning of transonic.
Mm-hmm.
And see the cheapy little Bliss calculator that I run, which is nothing to write home about, saying that wind speed 0, altitude 0, temp 85 degrees, 60% humidity. This is all kind of plugged in for where I live in Southeast Louisiana.
Yeah.
But it's saying that 700 yards be down to about 1,300 feet per second.
Yeah, so regardless, we're getting close to that. And if there's any wind,
Yeah.
it's slow enough that the wind will start to affect it pretty good. From my knowledge. Now, this would obviously be a lot better conversation for somebody who's really a serious long distance shooter, which unfortunately none of us in this group are. So, but
We need to resurrect Jeremy Rowland.
yeah, his girls are of the age where they're really busy, so we're gonna try and get them on some point in time. But so, but yeah, I would, I would definitely look into upping the powder charge and pushing it a little faster.
What was our listener's first name?
You didn't put it in the show notes.
Not in the show notes.
Oh, that must have been a while ago.
He'll know who he is.
If he's a true listener.
Well, if he's not, it kind of did do a lot of good to send us the question.
So, yeah, I was just looking to see if it was anywhere.
He could also drop his bullet weight. I saw somebody mention the 155 Palma.
Yeah.
That might not be a bad thing to try either.
Wouldn't they get thrown around a lot more by the wind, though? If he's trying to push out 700 yards?
They will, but they'll be traveling faster.
Yep.
So when they're faster, no, they don't get moved as much by the wind.
Mm-hmm.
Less ballistic coefficient, though.
Speed is king. As far as
Yeah, but there's that group of guys that shoots the 155 out to 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
They're onto something. They understand something.
But there's also a lot of people out there that like to shoot them heavy for caliber. I mean, that's why I say that there's a world of opinions out there.
There sure are.
And I'm not enough of an expert to call any of them liars.
I got about 750 of those 155 grain Palmas that I like to run in my 308. I bought 2 boxes of them. And Jason, you're right. They're onto something. I like to run them in my 308. That's for sure.
Jake Bullock says 700 yards. Isn't that far enough? No. Not far enough.
Yeah, he says it's not that far because they're shooting 77 grain 5.56 at Camp Perry at 700. So,
Gotcha.
I mean, if you're talking F class, they're shooting 308s at 1,000. So, obviously, that's something. So,
yeah, as a matter of fact, that's a requirement to shoot F class. It would not I forget. It's a standard competition Everybody shoots 308. You're not shooting like a 7 mag or anything like that. Everybody shoots a 308 caliber.
I thought they could all shoot 223.
You're right.
In
What
Paula,
ranges?
they can only shoot 308.
My mistake.
But yeah,
I'm remembering all this from Jeremy's talks about F class.
You're right. They shoot both 308 and 223, 5.56.
But I think they limit 5.56 to 700 yards because I remember some of the stories Jeremy told me about guys like using hammers to beat their bolts open with the 5.56s because they were pushing them so hard to get them all the way out there.
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah. So there's a couple of people that I've had email me that are long distance shooters. I'm gonna run this by them, run this by Jeremy, and see what we get for answers, and we'll revisit this. So, in the meantime, whoever's question this was, if you'd send us a message or email, that'd be great. That way we can give you credit for it. Since that didn't seem to make it somehow. So, sorry about that. But, well, that kind of wraps up tonight. So, but, yeah. So what's everybody's plans for the next week?
I'm going to finish building an AR pistol. Maybe get out and shoot it sooner or later. Load a bunch more 5.56. I finally finished trimming the last of the brass I had lying around that needed to be trimmed. And load a little bit of 9mm, load a little 357. Just the usual.
Nice.
You know how it is when you're reloading. You never stop. You just move on to something else.
Yep.
Unless your gym stops.
By the way, is your dad on the show?
Not tonight.
No.
But I can deliver a message. Don't tell him his son's a jerk. He knows that.
No. Show him my picture. Show him the picture I put up in Reloading Podcast group earlier this evening, Phil.
I will see if I can tag him in that.
Then give him the message that I said. Hurry the hell up, Carl.
Oh.
Did you slow him down on that laying those timbers for his shed?
Careful how much stuff you talk, sir. I might know something you don't.
Well, okay. Is it under roof?
I don't know. Might be, might not be.
You lie like a dog. You probably, yeah, okay. So in other words, he's ready to put a bench up.
You know,
maybe even beyond that. Maybe even got a press up.
I don't know. I haven't been over to his house in a couple weeks.
I don't believe that for a minute. You don't talk to your pap on the phone? Shame on you.
Oh, I do. I just not. I have a non-disclosure agreement signed with all my family members.
You know what horsefucking means?
I kept a straight face for a good minute on that one.
No, it was more like 3 seconds. Anyway. What are you going to do? What are you going to do this week? What are your plans, Jason?
Hopefully go shooting next weekend.
Sounds like a winner. How about you, Travis? You're next.
I got to work all week.
Yeah, I'll take care of that little one, okay? How about you, Mikey? What are you planning on doing?
Getting some reloading done and going shooting. Quite possibly tomorrow after work.
Good.
Because it's going to be in the 50s. All depends on whether it's raining or not.
Yeah, we're in the mid-60s down here.
And I think I'm actually going to wind up buying some 35 rem because I want to shoot that thing bad and I don't want to wait for the dies and stuff. So
go ahead, Phil.
You didn't mention on the show. It's a takedown.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't. Carl K., who's the guy that won the Dylan, has one, and he said that the big screw on the side is for a takedown. It actually comes in. It actually is a takedown, so it's kind of cool.
I was kind of shocked by that. I mean, that adds like 10 cool points to the rifle.
Right?
You bet. Makes it very portable.
Well, it makes it interesting because, I mean, I think in the day of modern ARs, we take for granted that rifles are takedowns. You can just pop 2 pins and, break it in half.
Mhm.
But like back at the time that rifle was built, that was not a super common feature, and it's really cool. And it's an off the beaten path cartridge, and it's a gun with a twisted magazine. It's a cool old rifle.
Yep.
And it being a takedown makes it cooler.
So, no, I've got Wild Turkey said I've got to make brass somehow. Actually, I've got somebody sending me some brass. So, but it's the dies I got to wait on because I got to wait for funds. So I don't know. We'll see. But Paul Loud, sorry, in the chat said if Carl's son was more useful, he'd have his shed built by now.
Be careful, Carl. Paul, excuse me. Be careful, Paul, because I have a feeling those guys are days away, just a few days away from reloading.
Yeah.
I'm not really competing, although Carl decided to put the game on.
You know what? If it gets your butt building that bench and reloading a day sooner, it was worth it.
Yep.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
I'm serious. I want to see you at the bench getting it done. You've been off your game too long. It's time to get back to work.
Yep. I can only rely on my experience so long.
I'm more worried about your memory.
Oh, don't worry about that. I write everything down.
Thank God. Do you remember where you wrote all the notes?
Yes.
You must have wrote a note to remind yourself where the notes are written.
I'm not going to tell you where they are, but trust me, they're well backed up. It's like people put information on paper. Well, paper isn't as volatile as a computer screen. I'll grant you that. But you can also print anything that you put on a computer screen. A lot of people like to use 3x5 index cards. There's nothing wrong with that. It just, they get well thumbed after a while. Personally, I like spreadsheeting. I don't know how to create a database. I don't know how to use products like that, DBase or whatever it is. However, I don't know how to write a database. Otherwise, I'd be trying that. But I think I like the spreadsheet because you can comment on the cells, on the individual cells, and you can actually write. You can add up everything you've done. You can subtract. You can delete, whatever. You can keep inventory, and you don't have to use just the one sheet. You can use another sheet or tab inside of the file. Mine I named hand loading log. I decided to go with 2 tabs in the beginning: rifle ammunition, and then handgun ammunition. Then I changed it again to large rifle primers, small rifle primers, small handgun primers, and etc. You can do all that. After a while, your file gets pretty big, but it's not like it's not like a photograph or anything like that. 1 gigabyte Excel file, that's a hell of a file. But a 1 gigabyte photo, that's common anymore.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, megabyte, not gigabyte.
I figured out what you were getting at. I've written a couple of Excel spreadsheets for my workplace that are like 4 megabytes before you start putting data into them.
Mm-hmm.
Just in terms of like formulas, conditional formatting.
Right.
Just like a blank spreadsheet. It's 4 megs.
But are you putting any kind of graphics in that? Graphing software or anything of that nature? No imaging? Nothing like that?
That's just put it this way. Some of the formulas I've written to make these silly spreadsheets work for financial work, the formula is like half a page in Microsoft Word in size 10 print. And I write them in Word because the little formula bar at the top of Excel is too short and I can't see the whole formula. So I write the formulas in a Word doc and then paste them into the cells. And
you
yes,
and me need to talk more about spreadsheets. I did manage to take an online course once on Excel. Paid $90 for it, and I thought I did good.
I couldn't get out of School of Business without taking 2 courses on nothing but Excel,
Yeah, oh yeah,
and then had to learn a lot more after I graduated.
oh yeah.
But this isn't the Microsoft Excel podcast.
No, it's not. It's the Reloading Podcast, and the word "the" is not in capital letters. Our show's name is Reloading Podcast, and we're running out of things to say.
Mm.
Well, you guys are having a good conversation.
Yeah.
So,
Guys, we could do hangouts. Somebody must have put a good one in the show notes or in the live chat.
hey, Jim. Paul Nelson said you still take the screen to the copier to print the screen.
Thanks, Paul. Love you too.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And that's one of the reasons why you want to hang out in the live chat during the live recordings. Because it's a great time to take shots at all of us. Because I guarantee you, if you take a shot at one of us in that chat, somebody else from the podcast will share it.
And then dogpile on.
Exactly. Just
Yeah,
remember,
we've all been under the bottom of that barrel.
we kid because we care. So, anyway, I want to take time to thank everybody that sends us emails at reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. We've still got a whole bunch to go through. So, I want to take time to thank everybody who sends us text messages to 608-467-0308. Hi, Russ. Or leaves us voicemails. I want to take time to thank everybody who swings by the Reloading Podcast Facebook page or the Reloading Podcast group and makes comments, talks schmack, gives us information, asks questions, and just generally interacts. Grateful for all that. If you have any questions that you need an answer to right away, head over to the Reloading Room on Facebook. Use Google search. More than likely, somebody's probably asked the question. If not, join and ask. So, but just a tip for both Reloading Podcast group and the Reloading Room. If you do not answer the questions, we will not admit you. Period. It's an automatic decline. So.
You got 30 minutes to answer the questions, and you really only need 3 seconds.
Yep, they're pretty basic.
Well, 15 seconds to answer them.
So. Yeah, they're pretty basic questions. So, want to take time to thank everybody who swings by firearmsradio.tv and hits up the Brownells and Amazon affiliate links. It doesn't cost you folks any extra money, but it helps out the network. And want to especially thank all of our Patreons, including the 2 new joinees. So we're just grateful. A lot of the stuff we do, we couldn't do without the Patreons, and just grateful for everything that they've that they send us their hard-earned money. So thank you very much for that. Just want to thank everybody that drags themselves here every week. Jason, Travis, Phil, Jim. Thanks that you guys show up every week. When you can, appreciate it. So it makes the show so much better. And the interaction with the people in the chat really helps make it too. So just this is episode 243, and I'm still amazed that we're still going. We still have stuff to talk about, so it's awesome. I love it. So
I do have one little shout out, Mikey, before we sign off. That's all right.
Certainly. Shout away.
At Ryan Ham. I'm not too sure about that, but you know what? I think you might be right. A lot of those two guys on here. I'm a what 10 years older than you, Jason?
100.
Yeah. Anyway, so Jason and I do happen to think a lot alike.
Yeah, we do. It's kind of weird, huh?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. We both use the same gestures and everything, same sign language. Isn't that amazing?
Amazing.
One finger salute. We all do. We all think the same way in a certain sense, even though we're scattered across the four corners of the country. Travis is up in Idaho. Jason's in California. Phil's already said he's down southeast Louisiana. He was around when Katrina destroyed most of New Orleans. Mike's up in Wisconsin. You can't get any more disparate. I'm in North Carolina, formerly of Pennsylvania. So, and yet we all think alike when it comes to this sort of thing. We've talked to each other. We've educated each other. We've educated ourselves. We love what we're doing.
Well, and not to swell y'all's head up anymore, but I mean, I only met Travis recently, but I mean, I credit Jim, I credit you, Jason, and Mike with like helping mentor me in reloading. I'm largely self-taught. I didn't have anybody here to hold my hand. I had to read instructions and figure it out myself, and spent a lot of time in the reloading room reading over what was there. I mean, I've been listening to the podcast I was listening to the podcast probably about a year before any of y'all knew I existed. So, I mean, I've been in the shoes of the listeners where they're trying to figure it out.
Well, Phil, what's your first episode? Do you know?
Oh, Jesus. I'd have.
Were Mike and I both on? Because I came on an episode
yeah.
two or three.
The first episode I recall listening to, I know you and Mike and Jason were on.
Oh, that's a little ways back.
Yeah, but I think it was before Jeremy Rowland came on. Because I remember when he joined the show.
I see.
I can't remember how far back that was, but it's been a bit. I think I started reloading in 2014, maybe 2015. Jesus, it's been that long already.
Well, think about it. We do roughly 50 shows a year. We're coming up on, we are doing episode 243. You know, by the end of this year, we will easily hit 250. We're together. Mike and I created, Mike created it, him and Jake Challen, but I came on, I'm sure it was either episode 2 or 3. Mike realized it's almost impossible for a normal human being to podcast and do it successfully and do it well and do it alone.
True.
There are people that do it. There are people that do it. I'm not going to say they don't. And God bless them. I tried it and Mike tried it. But as soon as we had the interaction, it became fun. And that was the whole thing. It became fun. It became interesting. We taught each other. We learned from each other. Just like the five of us do, every week. Yeah, sure, we razz each other, and sometimes we get carried away with the harassment. But at the same time, that's what makes us human. You know, it's like we're trying to enjoy ourselves while we're taking and educating ourselves and having a good time while we're doing it. I mean, I've sat on the show up in Pennsylvania. I sat on the show sitting here drinking rum and Coke till I wound up getting inebriated. Had a good time doing it too. I won't ever do it again.
Jim, here's the timestamp for you. I was added to the reloading room by Mark Hookham May 5th, 2015.
4 years ago.
So that was probably a few months after I bought my first press.
So you were listening to the show before that, though?
No, I can't remember if I caught the show first and then this. I mean, I've been into listening podcasts for a long time, but I can't remember which. Which
came first, the press or the show? I know.
Yeah.
That's It's one of those questions.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I know I was reloading before then, but it wasn't long before then. But yeah, just a little trip down memory lane. I was listening to you three specifically when I was still trying to figure out how not to blow my fingertips off.
Phil, was it before or after Jim started working on his new reloading bench?
That is a damn fine question because that started so long ago I can't remember. And
Thanks
yet,
for
yes,
that, Paul. I appreciate that one.
Yeah.
and yes, Paul Nelson, I know that I'm just a pup reloading. I'm 36 years old. I'm still a pup at a lot of things. But I still love to pay it forward whenever I can find somebody that knows less than I do.
There you go. That's why we're really doing it, because there's no way I could pay that old man that made me think one night that I was going to blow my hand off with his gun, his ammo that I reloaded under his supervision. There's no way I could pay a good old Tom off for that. I mean, besides that, he's getting pretty old and pretty feeble himself. But I can teach you, the 29-year-old kid just out of the service, just out of the military, that wants to learn what he was doing when he was in the military. I can help teach you how to duplicate your results. I can teach that other guy who wants to learn how to, I should not say I should say we. We could teach people how not to burn their hands when they're casting. Teach you about wearing your PPE, personal protective equipment. No, I'm not going to tear Jason up.
No, you could tear Travis up.
No, I'm not even going to do that, for real. But it's like we've done it, and we need to take in. If I can get this laptop outside and get this webcam going, I'm going to help Mike with see if we can't do some casting this summer, right there in my driveway. And Jason, what I'll do is I'll put a couple of sheets of OSB down to keep the lead spillage off of my concrete driveway. Because I would not want to hear about that.
Just adds character.
Yeah.
So with the bruises.
Yeah, the ones. You guys still. She does. I tried to find that footage on YouTube. She doesn't believe that she's on YouTube. Battering the hell out of me.
You know what?
It was
episode 240 because I was listening to it today at work, and when it got to that part, I had to step out of the room for a minute because I just started.
Any idea what the time frame could have been on that show? Because I looked through that show. Halfway, quarter of the way, 3/4 of the way.
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I wasn't watching the time. I was just listening while I was working on stuff.
First quarter, Jim.
First quarter? Thanks, Travis. Travis must have it up on his screen. You are tired, Travis. You haven't risen to much bait tonight at all.
All right, gang. Time to put a bow on this. So I want to say, I say thank you all the time, and I sincerely mean it. We all do. We're just grateful. So that we get to do this every week.
It's amazing how good of friends we've become with a lot of the people, with each other.
Yeah.
Most of us have never met each other. Mike and I have. Once in Nashville.
Yep. And I will be at NRA in Indy. So.
Yeah, if that's right. If you see Mike, walk up to him and say, "Hey, Mike.
You ugly."
Mike got new glasses too. I see that.
Nope, same ones.
Yeah.
Yep. So, but yeah, definitely want to thank everybody.
Yeah.
So we can't say thank you enough.
Nope.
So on that note, keep your brass shiny.
Be an asset, not a liability.
Not a matter of if, but when.
Buy it cheap and stack it deep.
And squeeze. Don't yank that trigger.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.